Hi everyone, my name is Anna Bokman with Sigma Kappa Sorority, and today we will be talking about the 5 love languages. If you do not already know your personal love language, take a moment and visit www.5languages.com and take the online quiz to find out what your love language is and learn a little bit more about how you might most like to express and receive love in the various relationships in your life. Once you have your love language, make sure that you access the worksheet that accompanies this video because we will be talking about each of the 5 love languages, some common do's and don'ts of each of those languages in expressing them to the people that are in your life, and different ways they might show up for you and show up for other people. The worksheet will help you follow along. So to provide a quick overview of the love languages, the concept of the 5 love languages was founded by Dr. Gary Chapman. And essentially the premise behind the 5 love languages is that different people with different personalities and experiences express and receive love and appreciation in different ways. And just like any other spoken language, love languages have different dialects. So each of the 5 love languages, a lot of people kind of think right away, oh, this love language means this and looks this way. But in reality, there are a lot of different ways to express and communicate each of these languages. So like I said, we will be talking about some do's and don'ts, some ways in which these languages show up for yourself and for others, and try to come up with a few different creative ways in which you can start showing appreciation and love to the people in your life through these different love languages. So why is this important? Understanding your own love language and the love languages of those in your inner circles can help you interact with others more effectively and really show up as your best self in your relationships. They are extremely useful in getting to know people on a deeper level and really understanding and cultivating a strong friendships, romantic relationships, relationships at work, relationships at home. There is really no limit to how many ways in which these ideas and these languages can be implemented in your life. So we are going to jump in and talk first about acts of service. So language number 1, acts of service. Acts of service is described as demonstrating care and concern through a willingness to help or share a burden. So you're giving one's time or talents to serve another person. Some things that it might sound like are simple phrases like, here, let me help you with that, or I've got this, I've got you, I've got your back, or what can I do for you today? How can I help you? It might look like a lot of different things depending on your relationships. It could look like running errands for somebody. It could look like helping someone with their chores, cleaning around the house, helping with a workload. Maybe you're helping a colleague at work with a project they're working on, making somebody a meal. It could be a whole variety of things. Some common do's and don'ts for acts of service. Do absolutely make sure that you prioritize your own needs first. It's important to make sure that you're taking care of yourself before taking care of others. And to do that, I often think about the airplane oxygen mask analogy. Put on your own oxygen mask before helping those around you. When you're expressing acts of service, it's really important to know that you can't pour from an empty cup, and you have to be able to provide that kind of love and appreciation to somebody through serving them. And in order to do that, you need to be able to feel whole and feel fulfilled yourself first. Another do for acts of service is set manageable expectations. Don't offer an act of service that you don't believe you will be able to fulfill or that is unattainable. So do what you say you will do and set manageable expectations for yourself. And always, always, always show enthusiasm. So if you are going to demonstrate an act of service to somebody else, it's important that they know that you want to do it. So you can't demonstrate an act of service genuinely to someone who appreciates that love language and act reluctant or disappointed that you are having to do something for them. Some very common don'ts for acts of service are don't offer something and then flake or forget about it. So if you're offering somebody an act of service, make sure you follow through. Don't treat this as an opportunity to change the way in which they want something done. I think it's very easy and very tempting for us to reach out to somebody and say, I really want to help you with this. I want to help you through this project or this problem that you're working on, but I am going to do it my way. And it's important when you're offering to help somebody that they feel comfortable with the way in which you are helping them. Don't expect a favor in return. I think, if somebody expresses an act of service to someone else and that person reciprocates, that's wonderful, but they are under no obligation to do so. So when you do express your appreciation for someone through an act of service, don't do it because you want something in return. Do it because you know that they appreciate acts of service and you want to honor that. And then finally, don't approach it reluctantly. So just like before, show enthusiasm, don't show any reluctance to follow through with what you are offering, and make sure that they know that you are eager to help out. The second love language we're going to talk about is quality time. So quality time is defined as dedicated and focused attention on companionship and shared experiences. So this can come across in a lot of different ways. Some of the things it could sound like are, hey, let's get together sometime. Do you want to come to this event with me? Do you want to go grab a cup of coffee? Making sure that you're offering to spend quality one-on-one time with somebody. What it can look like, it can be anything. It can be, a coffee date, a lunch date. It can be taking a walk together. It can be sitting on the couch and just discussing your days, discussing your life. The most important thing is that no matter what form quality time comes in, it has to be uninterrupted and it has to be focused. There is nothing more difficult to somebody who appreciates quality time than feeling like they are not a priority in that moment. So sitting on your phone and getting distracted by other conversations, distracted by other things going on, distracted by your technology, that doesn't contribute to quality time. So no matter how you do it, no matter how you spend your quality time with somebody, just make sure it's authentic and genuine and uninterrupted. So some common do's for quality time: put technology away. Easy. You won't be distracted by it. Practice empathy and vulnerability. Listen for feelings from the other person as well as their thoughts. And then share an experience. Travel together, go to a concert together, go to a game together, go try a new restaurant together. Some don'ts: don't force a connection with someone. Don't cancel plans unless absolutely necessary. I think it's so easy nowadays to say, oh, let's get together sometime. Let's go grab lunch sometime. But to someone who really values that quality time, you have to follow through on that. You can't, just say, I want to hang out with you and then cancel plans or, forget plans. And then ultimately, again, just don't allow for interruptions or distractions, because that's incredibly important to people who value quality time. The next one we're going to talk about is words of affirmation. So words of affirmation is described as using personalized and intentional words to convey a positive message about someone's character, not only their actions or their performance. And what's the big difference here? Words of affirmation, from even our early childhood, we are used to words of affirmation for things that we do. Oh, you scored a goal at that game. You did a good job. Oh, this is such a great picture you drew. You did a good job. And all of those things are wonderful and they make us feel great, and they definitely hold a lot of value, but they're all based on our performance. Words of affirmation can look like that, but it's important to also remember that they need to recognize someone's character and who they are as a person, not just the things that they've accomplished or the actions that they've taken. So what it could really sound like are things like, I really care about you, or I love how open you are. I love how creative you are. I love how helpful you are. I really appreciate how you always have my back. I really appreciate how you always can make light of a situation. Um, True, authentic statements like that about someone's character can really mean the world to people who love words of affirmation. What it can look like, it can come across in a lot of different ways. Words of affirmation can be spoken, they can be written, they can be announced formally, they can be shared informally. They can, we're used to seeing words of affirmation in anything from, passing someone in the hall and saying, I like your shirt or I like your shoes, all the way up to, going to an awards banquet and seeing people publicly applauded for their work and their contributions to a project or to society. So there's truly no limits to what words of affirmation can look like. But no matter what, the important thing to remember is that praise and affirmation needs to be genuine. And in order to do that, it needs to be authentic and about the person, and cannot just be sort of something generalized. So some do's, like we were saying earlier, personalize it to that recipient. So it's not just about something they've done, it's about who they are as a person and what they do and what they mean to you. Address the person as them, not just the action they've taken. And some don't overdo words of affirmation. For people who genuinely appreciate this, it's really hard to hear others kind of constantly praising them or constantly over exaggerating what they do and what they do positively, because over time it starts to lose meaning. So over time, express your words of affirmation when they are genuine and when you really feel like the person will be receptive to that. But overdoing it can be tough on them and can kind of invalidate the words that you are saying. And then another don't would be, don't do it publicly unless you are sure that the recipient is comfortable with that. So we're often given opportunities, whether it's in a chapter meeting to, give someone public praise for something that they've done for their sisters, or if it's, at in front of a group of people, or maybe even online on social media. We're given these opportunities to kind of publicly praise others, but sometimes people aren't comfortable with that. Some people love it, but unless you're sure that that person would be comfortable with it, people who value words of affirmation, it might not go over the same way if it's delivered in a fashion that they're not comfortable with. So making sure that you know what their comfort level is important. The next one we'll talk about is physical touch. So physical touch is all about the connection through tangible contact with others and feeling valued through physical proximity. So what this could sound like, nonverbal use of your body language to emphasize your affection for others. What it looks like, anything as simple as high fives, hugs, holding hands, comforting physical proximity. This obviously looks so different depending on what relationship you are using it in. There's a huge difference between physical touch between close friends or a romantic relationship with your partner. There's a big difference between those and then, your physical touch relationship with colleagues or with, acquaintances or more casual friends. That's where things like high fives or casual hugs come into play. So some common do's and don'ts. For physical touch, do obviously ask permission when it's appropriate. And sometimes it can feel a little uncomfortable, and there's a difference between raising your hand for a high five and giving someone a hug. And so try to find ways to break that tension. If you yourself are a physical touch person and you love hugs, it's so easy to go up and say, hey, are you a hugger? Asking that kind of, breaking the ice or asking that kind of permission is important. And then use your best judgment. It's really important just to understand that, some people people who love physical touch are totally receptive to it, but people who are uncomfortable with physical touch, that's just as okay as anything else. And sometimes you just need to use your best judgment in those situations to determine if that's appropriate. So don't use physical touch inappropriately. Ignore any lack of consent from other people. Obviously, never ignore that kind of um, resistance. And then don't neglect physical touch when someone needs it, as long as you are comfortable with it. So if you can tell that someone needs a hug and you're comfortable with it, make sure that you give them that, because it really can go a long way and turn someone's world around if they value physical touch and they just want that proximity. And then if you are comfortable doing so, try to always remember not to receive physical touch in any kind of cold or rejecting way to someone who values it. So as long as you are comfortable doing so, reciprocate hugs, reciprocate high fives, whatever that looks like to you and the other person. And a great tip to remember with physical touch, because it's obviously uncomfortable sometimes and it's very difficult to navigate, probably the most difficult of any love language to navigate within our relationships and our circles. It's not always about physically being, in contact with somebody. Sometimes physical touch can take other forms, like when somebody values a physical connection with others, sometimes that can look like doing a physical activity together, like taking a walk, or extending an open hand to somebody to help them, carry something, or maybe opening a door for someone, something like that. It may lack that literal physical touch with somebody, with another human, but extending that kind of proximity and that affection to them in that way is still really saying something. So remember that it doesn't always have to only fit into one definition, and physical touch can look a lot of different ways to a lot of different people. And finally, the last love language we'll discuss is receiving gifts. So receiving gifts obviously is defined as demonstrating appreciation through thoughtful and predetermined gestures. So yes, they are physical things. They are, predetermined, meaning you have put thought into something, because not everyone is instinctually a good gift giver, but there is a difference between knowing that someone was thinking about you as a person and knowing that someone just went through the motions to, because of an obligation, maybe to get you a gift. And I think that with physical or with receiving gifts, it can be really easy to sort of get lost and forget what the real meaning behind gifts is. And it's important to not put too much pressure on yourself, because the only thing that is truly, truly important to most people who value receiving gifts is that they know that you were thinking about them. So what it could sound like is, hey, I was at the store today and I saw this and I thought of you. Or, something as simple as, I know that this is your favorite kind of coffee, so I picked you up one. Thinking about, what is meaningful to that person, what they would appreciate, and what might make their day a little bit better is always important. So it's thoughtful, it's gestures that are specific to the recipient, and it's anything, no matter the expense. Receiving gifts could be a card, it could be, a $5 Venmo transfer for a coffee of the day. And it could be, anything up to something that you spend a lot of time on and maybe put a lot of thought and effort into. Maybe it's something you create yourself. So there's a lot of different ways in which you can practice, showing somebody appreciation through gifts. Some do's and don'ts: do make it personal. Investigate ahead of time. We have this great opportunity, especially in sorority, to, we can learn so much about people from our sisters. We can learn so much about one another from things like, spending quality time together at a sisterhood retreat, or, spending time together at a friend's house and learning about the kinds of things that they like the most. What kind of coffee do they drink? What kind of, notebooks do they use? What kind of artwork do they enjoy? What kind of pictures do they enjoy? There's so many different ways to learn about somebody else and to figure out what really is meaningful to them and be able to make those gifts personal. Obviously, another do that is very important is be mindful of logistics. So for things like, traveling and giving gifts that others will, giving physical things that others will then own, it's always important, be mindful of the logistics. Does it make sense for them to have this thing? If someone is maybe living in a small apartment, what kinds of small apartment things could make sense for them to have? What would be both practical and kind of exciting for them to own or have? And then obviously also, when somebody likes receiving gifts, it is important to know that they think that other people will like receiving gifts too. So accept gifts from other people with enthusiasm. Usually pretty easy to do. No one, everyone likes getting a gift, but definitely show appreciation and enthusiasm when you accept a gift from someone who appreciates receiving them as well. Don't do things like, generalize gifts to everyone. Don't overdo it. I think it's very important to remember that overdoing gift giving can be overwhelming for somebody, even someone who really appreciates receiving gifts, because it can make them feel like they're indebted to you. So be careful not to overdo it. And then for somebody who appreciates receiving gifts, this is difficult for a lot of people, but it is important to remember those meaningful occasions. So remember things like birthdays, remember things like, anniversaries if it's you and your partner. Remember those important milestones that might warrant a gift or might be appropriate for someone who appreciates receiving gifts, and make sure that you celebrate them. So those are the 5 love languages. We have quality time, acts of service, words of affirmation, receiving gifts, and physical touch. There are 1,000 ways to express and receive these love languages in your life, and there are so many different ways in which other people want to express and receive their love languages. So in order to move forward with some of this information and create a plan that might help you connect with your sisters and those other relationships in your life more, take some time and learn what other people's love languages are. You can ask them to actually go through the steps of taking the online quiz and learning their love language if they haven't already. Highly recommend it to anybody. Or you can guess. You can think about the things that they do for others. If you have a friend who is constantly, praising you and other people, or giving cards, giving shout outs on social media, things like that, they might be somebody who really values words of affirmation. If you have someone who you truly enjoy going to lunch with because you know that he or she is always really eager to ask you to go to lunch or go on walks together, whatever that might look like, study together, that might be somebody who really appreciates quality time. So that could be something that you offer them in reciprocation. So take some time, try to think about what those languages might be for other people in your life, and don't be afraid to express to them what you need and what you value, because that is incredibly important as well, to show what is important to you and how you want to be loved and appreciated as well. So I hope that you were able to learn a couple of things from this video. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information will be attached, and please also take some time to read through some of the resources on 5lovelanguages.com, because there is just a wealth of information to be shared and absorbed, and love languages is incredibly fun to learn about and incredibly fun to practice. So thank you all for joining me today, and have fun practicing that appreciation in your life.